95% of your anxieties will never come.
Yeah.
The mental health, unfortunately, has 80 to 85% gap between the people who need help and they are getting it, right? Before you try to help yourself.
Yeah. Mental health has a lot of stigma attached, especially I think at least people of my age, maybe a little bit elder. How do you work on that stigma piece among your customers?
So I think keep on solving. Rather than going into the numbers, keep on solving bigger. I never felt that, I have to sell mental health to. And we came up with this 6 A's.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the inaugural episode of Beyond the Pitch, an initiative by Inflection Point Ventures, where we delve into the lives of the founders that are funded by Inflection Point Ventures, their stories, their struggles, and how they make life work. Mental health is an important element for all of us and our children. Today, we have Krishna Singh, founder of Lissun, talking about his story, his startup, and his life. So welcome, Krishna. Good morning.
Good morning, Vinay. Thank you for calling me here.
Cool. So Krishna, Lissun is a tech-driven mental health startup, and you have done a lot in this world. Before that, you have done your graduation from IIT Delhi, and you have also studied at IIM Ahmedabad. How does it feel to be on this stage?
I think it feels good and good talking to you. We talk quite a bit anyway.
Yes.
Doing it in a more formal manner also helps.
Cool. So Krishna, as we start this, I want to talk a little bit about you. You have an impressive background, and the area of work you are in, it's neither engineering nor management. How did you come about this idea, and what keeps you ticking on this idea on a day-to-day basis?
When I think it's the straw that breaks the camel's back. If you would have asked me, let's say even 5 years back, I wasn't would tell you that I would do a mental health startup. But I think it's my background. I grew up primarily in Western UP, and for my engineering, as you shared, went to Delhi. Then I went to US for actually around 8 years. Did a PhD and then worked with a tech giant over there. But always was fascinated. So I was in US from 2003 to 2011, but always was fascinated how the India was changing whenever I used to come after a year or so. So that impressed me, and I felt like, because of the background of my family, especially my father, he was in administrative services, that I should come back, do something close to family, part of India's growth story. And then when I came here, took the route of IIM, as you mentioned, the MBA part was more about settling India, never worked in India before. And then worked with multiple companies. Couple of them were Uber and Flipkart, built multiple businesses out there. And somewhere that journey really excited, creating something large beyond yourself, more lasting. And I had two very distinct mental health, I would say, incidents with me, one with my family member and one with myself. So when the idea came to do something of our own, and it came during the time of pandemic, I met my co-founder, Tarun Gupta. Similar story, he was also in US. He wanted to come back. He came through ISP, worked early days, Oyo, then we met at Uber. So essentially it was a discussion, let's do something of our own, because you can say all the entrepreneurship. Do something more meaningful for Indian society, kind of both our backgrounds. And then mental health came as a discussion. He suggested that this is an area which requires a change. I was actually that time in particular going through a mental health issue. So that prompted us to start Lissun. And we started in August of 21, but idea germinated somewhere actually in September of 2020.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, I came, I think, back from US around the same time as you did, and probably for the similar reasons as you did. So as you are now far more educated and also far more mature about this area, what would your advice be to people like me? How should I take care of my mental health, and probably for my kids as well?
Sure. Again, very clearly, I'm not a psychologist, but what I practice, and at least works for me. Like, first of all, compartmentalize. Don't. So I read somewhere that more than 95% of your anxieties will never come.
Yeah.
Right. And we always keep on thinking about future. So in fact, when I was going through that mental health episode of myself, I was practicing mindfulness quite a bit. So mindfulness works very simple. For example, I have this opportunity to talk to you in this formal manner. uh, I want to enjoy it. Right? I'm not thinking what will happen at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. or something. Obviously, there are a lot of meetings lined up. But the whole idea is to live in the moment. Secondly, I find personally for myself a spiritual anchor. And third, and it's not because I sell it, but I do take regular sessions with my psychotherapist.
That's amazing. And how do you, or what is the impact you want to make over the next 5 years to this country, specifically in the space of mental health?
So I think that is defined in our purpose: solve mental health at scale. And if you ask me 5 years down the line, uh, obviously, let's keep the numbers aside, right?
Yeah.
We are in 20 odd cities in India, uh, through our physical presence, 45 odd in our through digital, and we serve, as you know, Vinay, quite well, big cities, tier 1, tier 2 cities. Idea is that should we should be taking this forward to much larger population, reaching out to much larger people. Lot of tailwinds are working for us because the younger population is way more aware about it. So I think keep on solving.
Yeah.
Rather than going into the numbers, keep on solving bigger all the time.
Awesome. And as you keep on solving bigger and bigger, you will need bigger and bigger amounts of money as well. This is a very different category you are creating. What are the challenges you have faced? And what would be your advice to other founders who are trying to create categories in terms of fundraising?
So specifically for fundraising, right, Vinay, and again, thanks IPV last time you led our round. So finding people like you who believe in it, right? So I hope you remember, because you talked to a lot of founders before finalizing, right? I never felt that, I have to sell mental health to win. And this is a very common line I use, especially in my internal setting, but that's fine. I think you cannot convert people. I'm talking about specifically fundraise, right? Investor community.
Absolutely.
People who doesn't believe that I will not say they don't believe in mental health, but they don't believe mental health as a business, right? And this is investor, obviously, financial investors, ROCs, everybody needs, right? So I think that would be difficult, but people who are you can convince people, and convincing can happen through your business model, through your tech, through your team. So that is how we were able to do till now. As you know, we are just closed our last round as we speak, right? Post after your investment, the another round just be closed. I think the whole idea that we are able to find the right partners and convince them of our business model and team, I think.
No, that's an important point you make. One is people who understand it, and find those investors, and people who understand the business model and then can make conviction out of it. So
I think the operating word, Vinay, is conviction.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have to convince you.
Absolutely.
Right? Mental health is
correct.
Viable business. I have to convince you my business model is viable.
Correct.
Business. Right?
Absolutely. And then how do you conviction has another form, right? Which is stigma. Now, mental health has a lot of stigma attached, especially I think at least people of my age, maybe a little bit elder. How do you work on that stigma piece among your customers, or give that knowledge out that this is normal and this needs to be worked on?
Yeah. So again, I'll go back, right? So, okay, that's fine. We wanted to solve mental health at scale.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, if I go to my MBA class, right, writing the first line in a case study is always easy, right? But then when you start solving that case, it becomes even difficult, right? So whole idea, Vinay, was that how we reach out to the larger population. And mental health, unfortunately, has 80 to 85% gap between the people who need help and they are getting it, right? And we came up with this 6 A's. Awareness. Like these 6 A's are like, syndromes, we call it mental health through Lissun. Awareness is an issue. So when you have 80% market who is unaware, right? And then acceptance, even if you are aware, but me having a mental health, and then stigma, you want anonymity. And also on the supply side or on the therapist side, you have problem of access, affordability, and quality, which we call assurance. Now, but the first part is how do you reach out to that unaware people? And what we did, we basically for first 6-7 months of 2021 before we launched our company, we really thought like where this unaware population is going. And that is where an epiphany came when we talked to a lot of people other than psychiatrists and psychologists, also psychiatrists and psychologists, that they get lot of their customers through cross referrals from other healthcare practices. So essentially, our genesis is kind of a B2H2C GTM, where actually we directly don't go to a consumer and sell it. That's why, in fact, you sell directly, you will reach out to a very small population, and you will spend a lot of money on customer acquisition cost, right? And LTV may not come out to be right. And our LTV and CAC were always greater than 1, and it obviously has increased quite a bit up now as we improved our efficiencies. So whole idea was that you reach out to the unaware user, but through a trusted person. In our starting case, it was a healthcare professional. She could be a gynecologist, it could be an infertility center, it could be a medical place, it could be a chronic disease healthcare company, because they see mental health as a part of their overall care rather than just they have been singled out for mental health and taking mental health support. That has been the way we are able to move on to the awareness side and reaching out to that unaware population.
Well, that's interesting, I think. I think in our word, we say that the first step to solve a problem is to identify that the problem exists or be aware of the problem, which is like unconscious part of the learning as well. So you put this framework of 6 A's in a very nice manner. Maybe if you could repeat this 6 A's for the audience, that would be helpful. And then how did you come about these 6 A's as well? So it makes it easier for people to understand.
Sure, I think I will repeat those. So there are 3 on the demand side, 3 on the supply side. So demand side, if you think about it, awareness. 80% of the people are unaware about their mental health issues when they're suffering through that. Then acceptance, that you accept it, right? It's a problem. Then anonymity, coming from stigma because you don't want to be seen, right? Then on the supply side, finding a good therapist beyond metro's access. Then even a normal, if I would say, a problem on the mental health side require a longer duration, right? And therapies don't come cheaper, so affordability becomes an issue. And then we say quality is important because that's we represent by assurance. So the story is like this. Since you asked, I was quite impressed during my IMA strategy class. They gave me 6 A's, which I don't remember. So my strategy professor is not happy about that. But anyway, so I kind of like awareness and acceptance came very natural. And everybody talks about it. Access also people talk about it, right? Access is not there. And that is true to a lot of healthcare problems, right? I kind of force-fitted anonymity because to represent stigma.
Makes sense.
And then affordability came along as we talked about it. Assurance actually came from my friend's wife. I was talking to her. She works a lot in mental health. And at that time, as you know, this was early 2021, right? We were talking to a lot of people to understand the things. And then she said, like, without quality, it will not happen. So last assurance was actually now the force fit 6th A. So we have to represent assurance as quality. Awesome. That we assure our customer the quality is good. So that's how the 6 A's came in.
And what can a layman like us do to help somebody when we see somebody having a concern, or we see that somebody needs medical attention or an expert guidance? What can we do to help them?
No, I think I'm also a layman that way, but yeah, just more invested in mental health. I think Vinay, first of all, the first step is that, as you have said, right, somewhere just few moments before, identify it's a problem.
Yeah.
This can happen. ये हो सकता है. Don't think it like, it's something somewhere, hidden. It can happen, right? Second thing is that non-stigmatize it. Right? For example, let's say we can very easily talk about it, right? That our family member has a dengue, for example, or for that some other ailment, or unfortunately maybe a fracture, right? You can talk about it as well. Okay, he's going to a psychotherapist. You may not necessarily tell the ailment, right? That's okay. So I think the way I would say is that before you try to help yourself. That it can happen, because if you are aware, it can happen to you also, right? It can happen to any one of us. And as I said, like on record, I take therapies, and I was taking therapies even before starting Lissun, right? So overall, I think this is, you accept it, you destigmatize it in your conversations, in your families, in your communities, in colleges, or wherever you go. And then if you see someone, right, who is struggling, and it's difficult to pinpoint, like because fever you can measure, blood pressure you can measure, right? I think then just lend an ear. That's where the name Lissun also comes to the picture, right? And it is Lissun, soon as well, the play of Hindi word in the end. Lend an ear. That's will be the start, I would say. If you see that the person needs more help, then obviously, I'm not just talking about Lissun. There are many multiple mental health platforms, mental health professionals you can refer to.
That's well said, Krishna. I think I was talking to one of my interns last year, and he was very, very comfortable about it. He said, Vinay, just like we go to a doctor for a physical ailments,
yes,
we should be able to go to somebody for a mental ailments as well. That's well said. You also spoke about spiritual and mindfulness. Help us understand what is the role that spiritualism or mindfulness also plays in our mental health, especially in our fast-paced words, words of Zepto and Blinkit in 10 minutes. We want everything now. So help us, with your wisdom on these aspects.
Sure. Again, no wisdom. What I practice, I share that, right? So mindfulness and spiritualism, in my understanding, meets at motivation, meditation. But mindfulness is more scientific, where you may not to be spiritually inclined. It can be purely a physical exercise. As I said, like focusing in the moment. When I talked about spiritualism, it's coming from my own background, right? The way I grew up. My name is Krishna. There's again the family I grew up, the setup I grew up. So somewhere I'll put it in again very simple words many times, right? We say कर्म करो फल की इच्छा मत करो भगवान पे छोड़ दो वो मेरे लिए spiritualism है start believing in that what we control. Corona told us we hardly control anything, right? So somewhere I think, and which if I put more in psychological terms, define your circle of influence, define circle of control, and then leave the rest, right? So for me, that leave the rest maybe comes from spiritualism, but living in the moment, enjoying what I am doing, right? So specifically, let's say Saturday evening, I start taking time off. Never worked 6 days officially before starting my own startup. But the point is, let's say Saturday at 6 p.m., I generally shut myself down, spend some time with family, go out, or if nothing else, even lying on the bed. Whole idea is that you take that shutdown, you focus in that moment on Saturday 6 p.m. and I train my mind saying that it is Saturday evening, not Monday. On Sunday evening, people have a lot of blues, right? Monday starting. You still have 12 hours.
Yeah, of
Sunday. Why screw your one evening? So whole point is that you compartmentalize and focus on the moment. That's what I understand, the way I practice mindfulness.
Oh, that's amazing. And I also liked your way of reaching out to large set of consumers rather than trying to solve the problem directly by reaching out to the consumer and burn a lot of money and may not be effective. Help us explain how you came through this strategy of B2B2C, or in your own word, whatever you want to call it. So help us explain that strategy as well.
Yeah, it is B2B2C, and if we would have not done it, you would have not invested as well. So, see, sometimes you the fundamentals that me and Tarun developed in the first 6 months is still there, right? So we were talking to a lot of people. In fact, our first version of app was very B2C oriented. We have to change it now to reflect the journey of our customer. So one thing we were clear that the traditional way of running a mental health company, that you open a marketplace, bring the therapist in, put an app and go to Google, is not very scalable. I will not use the word Bible. It is not very scalable. So what we did, like, we just wanted to understand, like, there are therapists, there are psychologists, right, who is charging a big premium, 3,000 rupees an hour, 4,000, 5,000. And we started talking to them through obviously our connects in healthcare, right? Uh, there are enough people from our backgrounds who are running healthcare companies. So talk to them through the doctors. One of my very good friend, literally from my school days in Muzaffarnagar, Dr. Saurabh Singh, his father is a cardiologist. And we were talking to him, and then he told me, like, in cardiology, he sees so many mental health patients, because people have, like, anxiety or something. They think it's like a panic attack, and they come to a cardiologist, right? So that is where, so for example, talking to Saurabh or talking to these psychologists, understanding their, client flow. So we said, like, this is right now all disorganized. So what Lissun didn't do anything new. So psychologist, let's say if she wants to run her own practice, she will go and talk to those other healthcare professionals where they see a lot of mental health people coming in, and get the referrals. So similar way we organized. We went directly to those areas, right, where even rather than going to the doctor, where the mental health need is very important for the care. We started with infertility. Imagine the pressure there on an infertile couple, and the role of mental health in conception. Then we move to chronic diseases. And you are right, it's a B2B2C, you are well aware about it. We work a lot in education. Imagine the pressure that is there on the people who are preparing for examination.
ITs, IIMs, NEET.
Anything, CAT, whatever, civil services, state examinations. And we work a lot extensively in Kota. And last 1 year we are, and that's why I say, like, we have physical presence in Srinagar and also in Baramati. And I'm proud of that, like, even in Guwahati and Kolkata. So whole idea here is that you find out the right use cases, talking to the right set of people, and reach out to the end consumer. And now obviously, like, we are doing our B2C part as well, which is on the child neurodevelopmental delay, but it came from B2H2C only.
Oh, that's awesome. I think you spoke very well about adults and then coming to, younger folks and maybe now to children. And I want to delve a little bit more into children and adolescents. But before that, I do want to mention to the audience that while we've engaged over the last 2 years, it was funding winter. And we have seen both you and Tarun very clearly, sharply, I would say, practicing the art of what is in control and what's not. You have always not focused on the funding winter, which is outside your control or influence, but you have focused on your business very sharply. Hum kidhar ja rahe hain, kaise ja rahe hain? This is in our control, and let's focus on it. So I really highly appreciate that tenacity in both of you.
Thank you from both of our side.
Now let's get into the children's side, or the adolescent side. Help us understand the psychology there of the children as well of the parents, both at adolescence phase when they're preparing for these senior exams, or even early stage now with the sunshine business coming up for younger children.
Yeah, so I'll take the adolescence and the journey also. And somewhere, I think November of 22, both the things kind of simultaneously happened. So we were working a lot with pediatricians, and we were also seeing in our general practices that a lot of students are coming. Maybe somebody's doctor's kid is coming, for example, right? We went to a gynecologist, and in addition to the maternity consumers, they also referred their own son, for example. And then we got a kind of a inbound from Kota, from a renowned coaching institute. And adolescents started there by reaching out to Kota. And essentially, if I would do this way, right, let's say this is the awareness curve on the y-axis, and x-axis is my age. Awareness goes like this. As you talked about the intern, right? हाँ, बिल्कुल नीचे चली जाती है. So if you talk about the parties in adolescence, and I was personally surprised when I reached to one of the coaching institutes. They put me in front of the people, like, talk about JE prep, and I gave it in freaking 98. What I know about it right now, and as just like, I'm not even doing MBA properly. So, but anyway, they wanted me to talk. Then basically, I introduced my psychologist, who took a group session there. And to my surprise, right? Even to my surprise, and that time I was roughly 1.5 years running Lissun. 8 to 10 kids in quota, where 70% or 60% of them come, let's say, from Eastern UP or Bihar, right? And they were really, going around her talking, ma'am, aap kab available ho, aapse kab baat kar sakte hain, things like that, right? So the acceptance is very high in adolescents. And the idea is, how do you reach out to them? Generally, the way we work with adolescents, they may not have the means to pay that, and mental health is very, very important for their academic journey. So generally, the B2B partners is ready to foot the bill or whatever the way they do it. So adolescents primarily focusing, because it's a huge aware market. Obviously, their consumer power would be less. So find out innovate on the business side. I think that's an easier problem to solve rather than solving for awareness, right? Then come to the child side. Again, a very similar time, we were getting a lot of younger kids, especially between the age of 2 to 10 years or 12 years, for their behavioral therapies. And our pediatrician was saying that, you are just dealing with their behavioral therapy, but their overall they have a neurodevelopmental delays or disorders. And then what we started doing is that, we introduced one speech therapist. Earlier, we always have a clinical psychologist or a counseling psychologist. Now, in the speech therapy part, what we realized that you need more interventions on a weekly basis rather than a behavioral therapy. Then we introduced an occupational therapy. Then quite quickly we realized that it's a combined program. People may be coming for speech, but they also have the issue on the fine motor skill side, which is actually resulting in a behavioral issue. So, and with these kind of kids, initially, and we were very clear, me and Tarun were very clear from day one, you call us physical, digital, cost doesn't matter, honestly. What matters is my consumer is there where she wants to take my product, as simple as that. She wants to take my product digitally, I will be happy. Obviously, it makes my margins better. But if she wants to take my product at the site of her care in an IVF center, I am fine with that, or an education institute. So we were comfortable with the physical aspect, which I find sometimes people have that mental block. Both of us did.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, you know what, we'll try one of the center. We started in Delhi. The reception that we got was amazing. And within a 1 month of that launch, we said, like, you know what we should do? We should open at different places. And due to our B2H2C approach or B2B2C approach, we had physical presence in multiple cities. And we started in those cities. People may not think why we're starting here, right? I'm pretty sure you might have asked that question to me in the last round, right? We started in Lucknow. We started in Pune, right? We started in Gurgaon, which I would put Delhi NCR. But the whole idea was that in our setup, that will a longer discussion, but in our setup, you can start different places because you have the presence of a psychologist, and then you construct these centers around. So that is how it came. And one important part here is the awareness is higher among the customer, which is the parents. Because when your kid is not walking properly or not sitting and things like that, the physical signs come much earlier compared to an adult population where a person may be in depression, but it requires a longer for the physical signs to come in. On top of it, the identification can happen at home through relatives, family settings, pediatrician, schools. So overall, the awareness is more. And secondly, it's true, right? Even for myself, I will care for my kids more than myself. It's the way we are brought up, right? So that also helps in breaking that barrier. It's not the case that all the parents accept. It's not the case, right? But relatively to the adult population, the awareness and acceptance of neurodevelopmental delays and disorders in children is higher in parents.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's shift gears a bit artificial intelligence has entered all of our lives. Now the Apple phone is also coming up with artificial intelligence launched yesterday. How has artificial intelligence come in your business? Or do you think it is still far away to touch the mental health side yet?
One of the other conversations, this was a similar question asked to me. I strongly believe, and I personally was working in making microprocessors at Intel. The most complex human-made object.
Yeah.
So, seen very, very high tech, right? I feel that artificial intelligence is an amazing tool. It depends how do you want to use it. We are using it even today. Okay, but as you're asking, right? Artificial intelligence in our case, and I'll just take one use case for example. In our sunshine centers, children may do 8 to 9, maybe sometimes 12 therapies a week. And obviously, you will do spread it over 3 to 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Imagine the amount of time. And at one therapy is 45 minutes, 15 minutes is more download to the parent. So take somewhere 1 hour to 2 to 3 hours, 3 days, even take like 9 to 10 hours just spending in my center and coming and going at 1 hour on the other side, right? It's a commitment of 15 to 16 hours.
Large one.
Large. Lot of people. And it's a long term.
Yeah.
See, it's a long term problem. It's not like, it will go away in a short duration. You will improve. You will definitely improve, hopefully with the right interventions. So essentially, I'll just give you one very specific use case of AI. So what we do, we give a lot of home plans to our parents. Because essentially, a lot of things which we are kind of doing, those trainings, those techniques, even if I keep the behavioral therapy aside, on the speech therapy, occupational therapy, spatial education, right? Which parents continue to do at home. Now, very simply, what the role of artificial intelligence, which is very clear for us in our setup, which we are working towards it, is that this artificial intelligence can read patterns. Those home plans that we are giving, come out with a very specific plan for the kid, and very simple. I will not try to change everything. Let's say instead of 9 sessions, you have to come for 6 sessions. Because the other part you can do on my app. And eventually, right, especially in the milder and moderate cases where centers cannot open, right, launching an educational institution in Srinagar or Baramati or Kolkata is easier rather than launching a sunshine center, right? Because the whole unit economics, things needs to work, its supply needs to be there, people need to go there, right? Lot of these things can be taken care of. Even today, what we have seen, Vinay, that after the initial initiation on our center or due to distance issues, 15 to 20% parents are comfortable doing these things online. Today, a human being is doing it. Our idea is that artificial intelligence can really help parents to teach what they should do in particular use cases and take it from there.
Awesome. Now I want to talk about you a bit, Krishna. I mean, I'm very impressed to see that your name itself is Krishna and therefore how spiritually connected you are. Talk to us about your two lives, one as an entrepreneur, one as a human being. What are your mantras that you live your life by as a human being? And what are your mantras as an entrepreneur for our founders and for our other audience in general as well?
No, I think human being is very simple. Kar bhala to ho bhala. Like, simple. I believe in karma theory. Do right. That's it. Right. Even I remember one thing which when I was at Uber, some of the values were Uber were really impressive, which we even take it today. Do the right thing. DTRT.
Yeah.
So that is, I think, my mantra as a human being. I think on the entrepreneur side is like, which is sound like a cliche. You should know your unit economics like the back of your hand. You should be hopeful, always super optimistic, super hopeful with your business, but always very conservative with your finance.
Totally seen that.
Thank you. And as I said, leave the rest.
Leave the rest to God.
Awesome. Or whomsoever you believe in, even if you're an atheist, doesn't matter, right? And don't take everything on you. It's okay.
The inspiration aati kahan se? So where do you get the most inspiration from, or some of your mentors who you get this inspiration from?
So yeah, obviously mentors, uh, there are a couple. Even when before I started, right? So I might met mentor from Uber, Pradeep, before even starting. Like, I want to do this. He encouraged me. Keep on talking to him. He always focused on quality, so we focus a lot on quality. Obviously, he's an angel investor also, but anyway, that's much later, and money is not that big a thing for him or me. But it's more about mentorship, right? Other mentor, as I said, like, especially I would say my friend Saurabh, he came up with this B2H2C idea. I keep on understanding the healthcare through him, what the mindset of a doctor.
Yeah,
it's quite important. As you say, like, we are not psychologists. But I think the true inspiration comes from me, from my family. I'm blessed with two wonderful kids, Shauravir and Nana. And I want them to grow up in a world 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, where mental health is not stigmatized. They can seek the help, right? And all of us need some help or the other, right?
Absolutely.
And definitely, the support, the ideas, and truly managing everything. I primarily do listen and sleep. Is my wife Kanika. Uh, she herself is a psychologist, by the way, from a reputed college in Jaipur, Rajasthan University, and the way she manages everything around me as well. So definitely, definitely, she is a strong pillar for me.
Awesome.
And I think entrepreneurship without family is very difficult to do, at least for me.
Totally agree. I can relate to it 100%.
Yeah. We discussed about these things also earlier.
So, innovation, startups means that you're experimenting, means that there are many wasted experiments. And sometimes we feel that, if I was given a chance again 3 years back, 5 years back, I would do it differently. So what are those things that if you were to give an advice to your younger self, saying, okay, I would have done this differently 5 years back, 10 years back, or 3 years back, what would those things be?
So first thing, like, again, this is, as you talked about, for entrepreneurs, don't have regret. Because what will happen, you will have a lot of regrets because you are taking very high stakes game. Earlier, even a company, you will make a decision, even in a very, like, higher leadership position, there is a lot of backup and things like that. You will move certain part of the equation, right? Here you define the freaking equation. You can get absolutely wrong. Right? So don't regret, because as long as your heart is on the right side and you took the decision for the right reasons, anything can go wrong, that's fine. But if I would say, like, 3 years back or 5 years back, if I go to 5 or 6 years back, I would say that, I should have thought about entrepreneurship earlier. Very, very honestly, right? Because there is no right time. One of my mentors also told me that. Then I think if I talk about Lissun, the amount of money we put on the B2C app, I will definitely use that. And that time, that amount was actually 1/3 of our total funding. So definitely, like, my idea, when some of the people told me this thing, right? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but initially do with a very small product, because tech sucks up a lot of money. So do experimentation before going full-fledged in one direction. So basically, we developed a whole freaking chatbot, which we deprecated. So those things, and I think you learn. Maybe we bring an AI chatbot in future, not sure how and when, but overall, yes, I would tell myself that first do a true MVP, maybe even through a WhatsApp. It's okay. And then put the money, large amount of money in those things.
All right, so then I'll give you a chance to answer from your heart and not have regrets 10 minutes later, because you are now going into a rapid fire round.
Okay.
All right. So morning person or a night owl?
Morning person.
Meditation or exercise to de-stress?
Meditation.
One word that describes your startup journey so far?
Amazing.
Go to comfort food after a tough day?
It will be chole bhature.
Awesome. Mine too. Books, podcast, or movies? Your preference for mental health insights?
I think I really like, there is a Sean Horish, I think his name. Uh, he's very good on mindfulness, right? So I follow his podcast also.
It's a podcast.
Podcast. I think on the book side, uh, generally I read snippets a lot. So anything that you can read on mindfulness, meditation, ikigai, for example, very good way of life. Because I personally believe that it's a part of life.
Integrity. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Next one. Biggest inspiration in mental health space.
Uh, it will be, in my view, I think the way Deepika has come up and talked about it way before anyone else, right? Really moved a lot of needles there.
Got it. One thing you do daily to prioritize your own mental health.
Oh yeah, that's basically I do mindfulness now, kind of walking, talking, and compartmentalization of my work.
One advice to others for their mental health.
Mindfulness.
Okay. What's a hobby that keeps you grounded?
Maybe 5 minutes of or 10 minutes of prayer every morning.
Awesome. Describe your ideal self-care day.
Oh, my ideal self-care day will be very different. I will be wake up a little later, uh, spend some time with my kids, go for a swim, watch an OTT. Very rare days. Those are few of the Sundays in few of the months.
Okay, let me ask you the last question on that. What is your guilty pleasure TV show or a movie then?
Oh, right now I'm watching Last Kingdom. I'm a big fan of fantasy shows. One of the best movies is Lord of the Rings. So one of the things in one of the travels, whenever come next, I was in travel just 10 days. Uh, Power of Ring or something has come on Amazon Prime.
Awesome.
I'm not getting any money from Amazon Prime.
Maybe I'll watch some of those I've not watched. But thanks, Krishna, for being here today. It was a wonderful catching up with you, knowing a little bit more about you that I never did over the last 2 years. So this last 35 minutes have served as an important time for me to know you a little bit more as well. Your journey has been inspiring. We can't wait to see you grow along with Tarun, and we can't wait to see Lissun grow to greater heights. We are all around, and IPB is always going to be behind you to help and anything that you need from us. Thanks a ton for being here and spending your time with us.
Thank you very much, Vinay. It's always pleasure to talk to you. Whenever I need some advice where I'm kind of stuck, I know I will call you, and we connect quite quickly. Even I know how busy and travel you do. And obviously, thanks to the IPB team today, I came with a very open mind. I think I really enjoyed this discussion, and hopefully, if we are able to create more awareness about mental health, I think that would be sufficient.
We'll stay your partners. Good luck, Krishna.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
All right. So, Krishna, here is a small card that we want you to sign as it goes in the Wall of Fame at IPB as well.
Okay, Wall of Fame. So I remember in Shivalik Hostel way back in 2003, gave me Roll of Honor. So it's emotional, but thank you very much. I am doing on the behalf of all the other 100 listeners that I have. It's not my alone.
That's a wonderful advice. Thank you. Love that. Thanks a ton, Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you very much.